Rudrastvatma Saririnam Yasminotamidam Sotam Vishvam Sattivatantashu Dharayishyati te vegam Rudrastvatma Saririnam Yasminotamidam Proktam Vishvam Sattivatantashu. Lady. Dharayishyati te dvegam Rudrastvatma Saririnam Yasminotamidam Proktam Vishvam Sattivatantashu. Ladies. Dharayishyati te vegam Rudrastvatma Saririnam Yasminotamidam Proktam Vishvam Sattivatantashu. Dharayishyati te vegam Rudrastatma Saririnam Yasminotamidam Proktam Vishvam Sattivatantashu. The word for word. Dharayishyati will sustain. Te your. Vegam force of the waves. Rudraha Lord Shiva. Tu indeed. Atma the super soul. Shariranam of all embodied souls. Yasmin, in whom Otam is situated in its longitude. Idam, this whole universe. Proktam, latitude. Vishvam, the whole universe. Shati, a cloth. Eva, as. Tantushu, in threads. Translation. Like a cloth woven of threads, extending for its length and breadth, this entire universe, in all its latitude and longitude, is situated under different potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva is the incarnation of the Lord, and thus he represents the super soul in the embodied soul. He can sustain your forceful waves on his head. Purport. The water of the Ganges is supposed to rest on the head of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who sustains the entire universe by different potencies. Lord Shiva is described in the Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, text 45. Shiram yata dadi vikara vishesha yogat sanjayate nahi tata pratigasti hetu yasambhutam api tata samupaitya karyat govindamari purusham tamaham vajami. Milk changes into yogurt when mixed with a yogurt culture. But actually yogurt is constitutionally nothing but milk. Similarly, Govinda, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, assumes the form of Lord Shiva for the special purpose of material transactions. I offer my obeisances at Lord Govinda's lotus feet. Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the same sense that yogurt is also milk, although at the same time it is not milk. For the maintenance of the material world, there are three incarnations: Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is Vishnu in an incarnation for the mode of ignorance. The material world exists predominantly in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, Lord Shiva is compared here to the longitude and latitude of the entire universe, which resembles a cloth woven of threads extending for both its length and breadth. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Ganim Yat Kripa Taraham Vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwaram. So we see here that Bhagirati is requesting the Ganga to flow and come to this earthly planet. And the Ganga is wondering, well, the force of my waves is so great. Who will be able to sustain such a forceful flow of water? So here it's being suggested by Bhagirath Maharaj that there's Lord Shiva. So he's giving some description of the qualities of Lord Shiva. And so Lord Shiva is described in the Brahma Samhita is like the comparison of Lord Shiva and the Supreme Lord Vishnu is like milk and yogurt. And this fits in with our understanding of simultaneously one and different, right? And here the sameness is being kind of accentuated. Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Adi Purusham, the original person. Krishnastu Bhagavan Svayam. So coming from Krishna are all even the living entities are an expansion. Right? We're also an expansion of the Supreme Lord. We're his anksas, parts, as he describes in the Bhagavad Gita. All the living entities are my anksas. But the conditioned living entities, they come here to the material world with the idea that they'll be able to manipulate the material energy for sense gratification. Actual fact is that Krishna is the center of everything. He's the source of everything. He's the original person from which everything else is coming. But a conditioned soul wants to see that he's the source of everything, right? But that's not possible. It's not his position. But that's what he wants, that's what he desires. So the Lord creates this material world, and it's a place where the living entities can come and, try to be the source of everything. They want to be the center of attention. Everyone should glorify them. However, that's actually Krishna's position. Everyone should glorify Krishna. But the conditioned souls have this desire, right? They think that they're the center of the universe, they're the source of everything. But at the same time, if they get a cold, right? They're sneezing, they can't even control their cold, right? 7 days they're out, right, with the cold, cough and cold. Yet, even being so vulnerable, they think that they're everything, right? Now, this is the power of illusion. So this material world is an opportunity for them to come in and imagine that they're the center of everything, and they make their life in such a way as though they're the center of everything. The master of their house, master of the home, right? Having family members, because they're bringing money, they're maintaining the family members, so the family members are appreciating, right? The father who's providing all these things, right? So he has his little universe, right? And he's the master of that universe. But at any moment, havoc can take place. And ultimately, due to the time factor, havoc will definitely happen, right? Because in young age, one may be earning sufficient money to supply all the family members, right? But in old age, one has, due to infirmity, they have to retire, right? And they're not earning money. And then they become not the object of everybody's attention anymore, right? They even become, for many families, it's a burden, old people, right? And nowadays it's become popular because of the breakdown of the joint family system in India. It doesn't so much work anymore, right? They have old age homes where they put them in an old age home. Let somebody else see, right? And because the idea is enjoyment, right? Therefore they put the old parents in old folks' home so that they're free to enjoy, so-called. So this is the nature of the material world. And Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, in his position, he doesn't interact with the lower modes of material nature, right? So he expands himself as Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva interacts with the material nature. Durga, right? The material energy. But the material energy, besides being a place where the conditioned souls, try to satisfy their material desires and ultimately become frustrated because it's not the natural course of things, the material world is also an opportunity, due to this frustration that the conditioned soul experiences by not being this understanding that he's not the source of everything and that he's not the supreme enjoyer. He can awaken and understand the falsity and the misery of this material world and try to develop his lost relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the process of devotional service. So that's a very auspicious thing, right? Being in the material world on the one hand is inauspicious because one is away from Krishna. But on the other hand, if one takes to the process of bhakti, that same material world can be a source of progress in spiritual existence. So Lord Shiva's maintaining or interacting can become very auspicious. And therefore he has the name Shiva, auspicious. Now there's another purport that Srila Prabhupada gives in the 4th canto. It nicely describes the position of Lord Shiva. This is from the 4th canto, chapter 30, text 24, the activities of the Prajetas. And Srila Prabhupada's purport I'm reading from. In the previous verse, it has been said, Grihita Maya Guna Vigrahaya, that the Lord accepts 3 kinds of bodies, Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva, for the purpose of creating, maintaining, and annihilating the cosmic manifestation. The 3 predominating deities of the material universe, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, are called Guna avatars. There are many kinds of incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the first incarnations within this material world are Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, Lord Shiva. Out of these 3, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva accept material bodies, but Lord Vishnu does not accept a material body. Lord Vishnu is therefore known as Vishuddha Sattva. His existence is completely free from the contamination of the material modes of nature. One should therefore not think that Lord Vishnu is in the same category with Lord Brahma and Shiva. The Shastras forbid us to think in this way. Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivatai Samatitena Viksheta Na Pashandi Bhaved Dhruvam. One who considers Lord Vishnu to be in the same category with the Devatas, like Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, or who thinks Lord Brahma and Shiva are equal to Lord Vishnu, is to be considered a Pashandi, a faithless non-believer. Therefore, in this verse, Lord Vishnu is distinguished in the words Namo Vishuddhaya Sattvaya. Although a living entity like us, Lord Brahma is exalted due to his pious activities. Therefore, he is given the high post of Brahma. Lord Shiva is not exactly like a living entity, but he's not the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His position is somewhere between Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Brahma, the living entity. Lord Shiva is therefore explained in Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, text 45, in this way, which we read earlier. Lord Shiva is considered to be like yogurt. Yogurt is nothing but transformed milk. Nonetheless, yogurt cannot be accepted as milk. Lord Shiva holds almost all the powers of Lord Vishnu, and he is also above the qualities of the living entity. But he's not exactly like Vishnu, just as yogurt, although transformed milk, is not exactly like the milk. So, Lord Shiva is, there's Vishnu Tattva, and then there's Shiva Tattva. So although Lord Shiva possesses many of the qualities, more than the living entity possesses of the Supreme Lord, still he's not the Supreme Lord. But he is considering himself to be the servant of the Lord, right? And he considers himself to be subservient to the Lord. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, we see Ekale Eshwar Krishna are Sabhibritya, that there's one Supreme Lord, and that's Krishna. And all the others are his servants. So all the demigods, they're actually empowered by the Supreme Lord to do various functions. Nowadays, many people feel that it doesn't matter. You can worship Krishna, or you can worship Ganesh, or you can worship Lord Shiva, and you get the same result, right? And they say all the paths lead to the same place. So if you go over to the Lord Shiva temple and you worship Lord Shiva, or if you come to the Hare Krishna temple and worship Lord Krishna, you'll get the same result, right? Generally, people that worship the demigods, they're looking for some material benefit, right? They want some type of sense gratification. So they're worshiping the demigods to realize that thing that they desire, the thing that they want. But they don't realize that the demigods, in order to give that result, they have to get that empowerment from the Supreme Lord. Right? Their ability to even, and ultimately it's the Supreme Lord that is satisfying everyone's desires. Right? But due to a poor fund of knowledge, not being properly educated, trained, people think that the demigods are on the same platform as the Supreme Lord. And this is a faithless, they're faithless. The word referred to in the purport is pashandi, a non-believer, a faithless person. But if we look around, most people that call themselves Hindus, this is the idea that they have, right? You can worship any demigod and get the same result. And they have this misunderstanding because nowadays there's no training. There's no education about what is the actual fact. What is the actual conclusion of Shastras? So this Krishna consciousness movement, and specifically by the mass distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books, the idea is to educate people so that they can understand what are the actual facts, and therefore they can become successful in life. Right? No one ever attained the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without surrendering to the Supreme Lord's pure devotee. It's an absolute prerequisite for obtaining the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna is to surrender to Krishna's devotee. Right? So when we're distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, we're giving the people Krishna's pure devotees' instructions. And the instructions of a pure devotee are non-different from a pure devotee. In fact, it said, you don't recognize a pure devotee by looking at him, right? You recognize a pure devotee by their instructions, right? And there's a lot of people that are doing, the Bhagavad Saptahas. There are many professional persons out there that have a very nice presentation for Srimad Bhagavatam with music and violins and harmoniums and different kinds of drums, and it seems very polished, right? But if it's not coming from the pure devotee of Krishna, it won't have the effect. And what is that effect? That effect is that there will be a change in the heart. A change in the heart. By hearing the words of the pure devotee, by hearing the instructions of the pure devotee, a change in heart takes place. Right? And the fact that Srila Prabhupada could go to the West and speak to people, simply telling them the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, but they could actually change their hearts. He could change their hearts. The people that came to Srila Prabhupada, they called them the hippies, right? So the hippies' philosophy was, they rejected the ways and the lifestyle of their parents, which was to, work hard and get a house and have material things. They rejected that. But what did they fill it up with? They filled it up with a hedonistic life of sex and drugs. That was their answer to rejecting materialism, right? It just so happened that they had it mixed in with a lot of ideas from the East, right? Some of the young people went to Kumbh Mela and they saw people there with long hair, sadhus, so they started wearing long hair, right? And they saw them smoking chilam, Om Shankar, so they started smoking chilam, right? And these were the people that Srila Prabhupada was preaching to, right? But because the message is coming from that pure line of disciplic succession, they could give up their bad habits. This is the test. Srila Prabhupada explains how some of these Bhagavad Gita reciters, you know, for 2 hours they're speaking Bhagavad Gita, and then right after the Gita, they ask somebody, can you give me a cigarette? You got a cigarette there? Right? They can't even control themselves for smoking cigarette. So no result will be there. The qualification for Lord Shiva to be able to sustain the force of the Ganges on his head is his purity, right? And that purity comes about by his desire to want to serve Krishna, right? And anybody's purity, it depends upon how much we're ready to serve the Supreme Lord. It's all about sacrificing our own desires and trying to satisfy the desires of the Supreme Lord. Right? So how would we possibly know what is the desire of the Supreme Lord? We're not on that level to ask him. Right? Can you go to Krishna and say, well, what can I do for you today? Right? But we can understand what's the desire of the Lord from his pure devotee. Therefore, the association of the pure devotee is so important. And one can associate with Srila Prabhupada, a pure devotee, by reading his books. And our International Society for Krishna Consciousness is founded on Srila Prabhupada's books. There, Srila Prabhupada described them as the law books for the next 10,000 years. Right? If anybody wants to know what's the standard, what's the basis of things in our Krishna consciousness movement, then they have to refer back to Srila Prabhupada's books. And because the books are filled with so much powerful spiritual knowledge, naturally there's going to be devotees that have strong realizations after reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And their realizations, Srila Prabhupada said, write your realizations. If you realize something by reading Srila Prabhupada's books, you should note it down. It's a very important thing. And subsequently, devotees will publish their own books, which is very nice, right? But that, at the same time, we have to understand the foundational books, right? When Prabhupada said books are the basis, meant his books are the basis of our movement. But there'll be many books that will come, and we'll have an opportunity to read those too. But at the same time, the very foundational books, the books that we want to go out in mass to the public, are Srila Prabhupada's books. So Lord Shiva, he's not exactly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's not like a living entity. He's somewhere in between. And therefore, he serves the purpose of interacting with the material energy, and we see that Bhagirata is trying to bring the Ganges so that his relations can be delivered. And when the Ganges water finally comes and touches the ashes of his relatives, they obtain the heavenly planets. So this bathing in the Ganges relieves one of the effects of sinful activities, right? And the Ganges comes all the way from the ends of the universe, right? And it flows down through the universe, the various planets, and it comes to this earthly planet, and it flows through from the Himalayas, right, through India, and it comes to Mayapur, the same Ganges. Right? So people can take advantage. By regularly bathing in the Ganges, people can become free from their sinful activities and become purified. So it's a very wonderful thing. Everyone should take advantage of taking bath, especially when you're visiting in Sridham Mayapur to bathe in the Ganges, and the devotees regularly go there, especially on Ekadasi. You'll see all the devotees going to the Ganges and taking bath. Even in the month of Magh, still they're taking bath, right? However, this bathing in the Ganges, that purification takes place by repeatedly bathing in the Ganges, right? But the chanting of the holy name, or hearing the sound vibration from a pure devotee of the Lord, has an immediate effect, right? You know, it's stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita that if you chant the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Ram, that it frees us from more sins than we're capable of committing, right? But just imagine the power of the holy name. So powerful. So the chanting of the holy name is the recommended method in this age for becoming free from this idea that I can be the supreme controller. Getting rid of that idea is not so easy, right? You can put on tilak, you can put on the kantimala, keep a nice bead bag, and shake your bead bag. I'm a devotee, right? But a real devotee, a pure devotee, never has this idea that I want to control things, right? The real devotee always has the idea that he wants to be controlled by Krishna, right? And if you see all the devotees that we read about in Srimad Bhagavatam, right? They want to be controlled by Krishna. They want to do what Krishna wants them to do. Like Uddhava, Dhruva, Prahlad. All wanted to satisfy the Supreme Lord. His desires, not their own desires. Right? They wanted to be controlled by Krishna. They were happy to be controlled by Krishna. Of course, then you have the other devotees, the devotees that live in Braj. And those devotees' devotional service is so exalted that they control Krishna. They control Krishna by their love. Right? When Krishna was reciprocating with the gopis, he told them frankly, your devotional service is so exalted, there's nothing that I can do to repay you. It's beyond me, right? His love for Mother Yashoda was so great, he took the position of a helpless child just because of the love of Mother Yashoda. Who can bind the Supreme Lord? Nobody can bind the Supreme Lord. But yet, he allowed himself to be bound because of the intense love of Mother Yashoda, right? What is Krishna afraid of? He killed Kamsa. He dragged Kamsa down from the stands in the huge arena, and he beat him to death with his fist, And just to make sure that his mother and father, Vasudeva and Devaki, who suffered so much from Kamsa, were convinced that this demon was dead for sure, he dragged him around by the hair around the arena. Right? So Krishna's not afraid of anything. But yet, when he saw the stick of Mother Yashoda, he began to tremble in fear, and he was crying. Mother Kunti, she makes reference to this in her prayers, right? Kunti's prayers. So Kunti marvels at the fact that here, death personified, fear personified, is afraid of Krishna. Even the sun does its seva every day, traveling throughout the universe out of fear for Krishna. Right? Just like the factory workers and the boss. Right? The boss comes, so they're doing their job. Right? So the sun is moving around, such a powerful living entity. But yet he's doing that out of fear of Krishna. And at the same time, Krishna is afraid of Mother Yashoda's stick. And that is because of her intense feelings of love. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is inviting all the conditioned souls to experience this love for Krishna. He wanted everyone to freely experience that. And he distributed it. So when we think of this material world, it's a very troublesome place. It's dukkhalayam, it's a shashvatam. It's a problem. Being here is a problem. Right? But at the same time, it's a fortunate opportunity for devotees who have come in contact with the pure devotee of the Lord through his instructions. This same material world can be engaged in Krishna's service, so much so that one can experience the highest standard of love of Godhead in Goloka Vrindavan. Therefore, Lord Shiva has the name auspicious. It's very, very auspicious. Hare Krishna. So are there any questions or comments? Mike at the mic.
I have been keeping Hare Krishna mantra gadget. Beside Hare mantra gadget, playing gadget, device.
Gadget. Hare Krishna mantra gadget. What's
Beside,
that?
beside,
What is that gadget?
Playing Hare Krishna mantra.
You know, like the speaker that chants Hare Krishna again and again.
In Prabhupada's voice.
Yes.
I keep beside my bed.
Nice.
So 24 hours it is playing, and at night time also our ears are open. So it is entering my ear, right? So will it have half of the effect of chanting Hare Krishna mantra just by listening?
Yes. Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing, chanting, both are good. All 9 processes of devotional service are good, or any one of the processes of devotional service are good, right? Maharaj Parikshit was hearing. He was hearing Shukadeva Goswami explain Srimad Bhagavatam. So he became perfect by hearing. Any one process that you practice, you can focus on, and you'll get the result of developing prema.
Suppose I leave my body during the night without my awareness, just by hearing this Hare Krishna mantra, will I be able to proceed to spiritual sky?
Well, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that anyone who at the end of life remembers him he at once attained his nature without fail. Ultimately, it's up to Krishna. What happens to us is up to Krishna. And for those who are surrendering to Krishna by chanting his holy name, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. He takes, Krishna takes charge of them. Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna is always with us as the Paramatma. He's always there. He's always with us. But because we have chosen by our actions and by our deeds to ignore him, so he keeps quiet. Keeps quiet. But if someone shows a little interest in him, if someone shows some desire to serve him, then Srila Prabhupada said he becomes very, very active in relationship to that person. Becomes active, right? So the more we become purified, the more we become engaged in devotional service, and that means Prabhupada uses the word fully engaged, fully engaged, fully engaged. Fully engaged. That, there's one's life becomes transparent. It's always about Krishna consciousness. It's not, a little bit of Krishna consciousness and a little bit of cell phone and then a little bit back to Krishna, a little bit of cell phone, Two lives. We got our cell phone life and the Krishna conscious life, Fully engaged in Krishna consciousness. It's the amazing thing about Srila Prabhupada is that moment to moment, everything was about Krishna. He's walking down the street and devotees are there, he's chanting, and there's someone's house has a tap and the water's on. So Srila Prabhupada says, tells the devotee, go and turn off the tap. So the devotee goes over and turns off the tap. And Srila Prabhupada says, it's Krishna's energy, it should not be wasted. But every moment about Krishna, thinking about Krishna, walking along and talking about Krishna. Srila Prabhupada used to walk on this Juhu beach, and various people used to come and walk with him. One, Mr. Dr. Patel, right? So Srila Prabhupada was always talking about Krishna. And Dr. Patel sometimes would get angry because Srila Prabhupada didn't accept just whatever Mr. Patel said, right? Yes.
Thank you. So, passively hearing Hare Krishna mantra during sleep.
You should be hearing Hare Krishna all the time.
Yeah, but is it amounting to actively remembering Krishna at the time of death, equivalent?
Well, like I said, it's up to Krishna.
Okay, thank you.
It's up to Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. My question is, in the class you mentioned that living entity is controlled and the supreme control is the supreme personality of Godhead. So do we infer that the activities that we do within the sphere of our bhakti, are they also controlled? Is there a limitation on that? Or do we have a limitation in the sense that there's a certain stage that we can attain in our bhakti because of that limitation?
The living entity can do one thing, and that's desire. Everything else is done by the Lord and His energies. You're not really lifting your arm. You're not in control of that. That's in the material energy, the three modes of material nature, ultimately controlled by Krishna. Mayad yakshena prakriti suyate sacharachanam etuna nena konteya jagadvi parivartate. Right? Due to our false ego, we're thinking, oh, I'm lifting my arm. Our illusion. But we're desiring. We're desiring, therefore, Upadrashta Anamanta. Krishna, in his form as a Paramatma, he's permitting, he's overseeing, allowing it to happen. So what are we controlling actually? We're not controlling anything. But we can have a desire to go nearer to Krishna, or we can have a desire to go away from Krishna. And if you want to go away from Krishna, he'll fulfill your desire. He'll give you so many things in the cell phone to see. Right? Same cell phone though, if you want to go close to Krishna, you can go to ISKCONDesiretree.com and you can get closer to Krishna. Right? Krishna fulfills the desire of the living entity. But he takes a special interest in the devotees. When he sees that the devotees have some, it may even just be a slight inclination towards him, he takes charge of that devotee. Right? And he kind of, he's the architect of the devotee's advancement, helps him. You know, just like a parent. The child can walk. We have Krishna consciousness. It's innate in us. It just needs to be brought out. So the parent helps the child a little bit to walk, right? In various ways. Same way Krishna sees that inclination for his service, and he sends his pure devotee, he sends spiritual literatures, he sends help to the devotee, and everyone is different, so everyone's requirement is a unique path that's chalked out by Krishna to come to bhakti. It's not all the same. Right?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes?
Lord Shiva is not fully Vishnu Tattva and not Jiva Tattva. So his body is what? It's a transcendental body or material
Well, Srila
body?
Prabhupada mentioned in the purport clearly that Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva have material bodies.
Material body.
Only Lord Vishnu has a spiritual body. It says right in the purport.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. There are people who are like worshipper of Lord Shiva, so they go to Kailash. So will they have to take birth again to go back to Golok, or will they be transcendentally there in Kailash only?
So you're asking if they go to Kailash, where Lord Shiva resides, if they're faithful followers of Lord Shiva, will they go to Kailash, where Lord Shiva resides?
Yes. And will they have to take birth again, come back to material world and go back again to Golok, or will they be eternally be there in Kailash only?
Well, the idea is not to go to Kailash, but the idea is to go to Goloka, or go to Vaikuntha. And that's the only place that is where the living entity can permanently reside with the Supreme Lord. So the persons that go to associate with Lord Shiva in Kailash, hopefully they'll be progressive and be able to go from there to Vaikuntha. Hopefully. But again, it's up to Krishna. They may have to come back down to this material world because it's not permanent. Any of the abodes of the demigods is not permanent. The only permanent place is the abode of the Supreme Lord, whether it's Vaikuntha or Goloka, one of these two, then that's permanent. But the demigods' places, you may go to the moon planet or the sun planet, that's not a permanent situation. You may live there for a very long time, but it's not permanent.
And Prabhuji, in different yugas, like Lord himself insisted sometimes to worship of demigod, and he himself sometimes did also. So how it has to be understood and taken into consideration?
Well, the Lord has great affinity for his devotees. the demigods are all devotees of the Supreme Lord. Like before Lord Ramchandra crossed the ocean, he worshipped Lord Shiva, right? So people say, you see, Lord Shiva must be greater than Lord Ramchandra because Lord Ramchandra worshipped him to cross the ocean, right? So that means that Lord Shiva is the supreme. But it's not like that. The Lord is very inclined toward his devotees. Look at Sudama Brahmin came to Dwarka to meet Krishna. Well, Krishna worshipped him. He put him on his own bed and brought all the paraphernalia for worship like ghee lamp and chamra and worshipped Sudama Brahmana. But that's because of the Lord's affinity for his devotees. He's very inclined to his devotees. He becomes controlled by them, by their love. But we shouldn't mistake that to mean that, oh, then the demigods are superior to the Lord. The demigods don't think like that. Even though Lord Ramchandra in Rameshwaram worshipped Lord Shiva before crossing the ocean, it didn't change the mentality of Lord Shiva any. Still, he felt that he's the subservient servant of Lord Ramchandra. Hare Krishna. Any other questions?
हरे कृष्ण। प्रभु जी, मैं ये पूछना चाहता हूँ, थोड़ा सवाल है, बस 2 मिनट, थोड़ी सी कहानी जैसा है। मैं क्वेश्चन है, मतलब थोड़ा सा मैं कहानी जैसा मैं बता के पूछ रहा हूँ, मैं डिटेल में थोड़ा सा। मतलब एक किसान है, उसके 5 बच्चे हैं, 5 लड़के हैं और 1 लड़की है, और 4 बच्चों का शादी हो गया है, और वो किसी कारणवश वो 4 अलग रहने लगे माँ बाप को छोड़कर। और एक बच्चा जो 5वां नंबर पे, वो छोटा है, और जो लड़की वो भी अभी छोटी है। तो ऐसे सिचुएशन में जो छोटा लड़का है सबसे, वो कहीं ना कहीं से शायद भगवान में उसका थोड़ा ध्यान है, वो भक्ति करना चाहता है। तो ऐसे सिचुएशन में या भगवान के पास जाके सन्यासी बन के पूजा करना चाहिए या माँ बाप का सेवा करना चाहिए? मेरा सवाल ये है।
You can do both. Why not do both? You can do the highest service to your mother and father by rendering devotional service. Look at the example of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj, his father was a demon. But Prahlad was a pure devotee. And because of Prahlad's pure devotion to the Supreme Lord, his father was delivered from birth and death. So we all have a responsibility to our mothers and fathers because they gave us this body. And with this body we can render service to Krishna. So one shouldn't neglect their parents. But at the same time, if you want to really do the best service for your parents, one should become a devotee of Krishna.
धन्यवाद।
Hare Krishna. Okay, thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.